Can the 16GB RX 9060 XT handle the GPU-demanding Borderlands 4 game at 4K, 1440p and 1080p resolutions? Let's find out. Because this graphics card has 16GB of memory, we can do some very jazzy things like pairing it with a 4K monitor. So let's check it out. Of course, we can't get a nice experience on a 4K monitor at native resolution, so we'll have to use resolution upscaling. But how far can we take it with this budget-friendly GPU? Can we really achieve a playable experience at 4K? And then we'll move on to 1440p and 1080p. As you can see, we are indeed at 4K resolution, and I'm not gonna mess around with the very high and maximum graphics quality, because after all, this is a 9060 XT. It cannot handle that at 4K, especially native, no way. So let's try somewhere reasonable. High graphics quality preset and FSR quality mode. By the way, FSR 4 is enabled, so this is the latest and greatest FSR version that looks very nice indeed. In my opinion, the high graphics quality preset is the last one that looks quite nice. Medium as well as low graphics, they look quite disgusting, I would say. And take a look at this. We're actually getting a playable experience, but it is not enjoyable. 30 plus FPS, nah, that's just not enough to enjoy this game properly, in my opinion. But we're still at FSR quality mode, so there is hope. There is actual hope that we will be able to get a nice playable experience out of this graphics card on a 4K monitor. Let's go ahead and select FSR 4 performance mode right away. We're still not quite close to 60 FPS, but have a look at that. We're getting 40 plus now. And our memory usage is at just above 11 gigabytes. So we're really taking advantage of that 16GB memory buffer. Let's try the lowest upscaling mode, Ultra Performance. Even this one doesn't give us that 60 plus FPS experience. But this is still miles better than 1080p native. Yeah, the image looks detailed. I'm always amazed what FSR 4 as well as DLSS 4 made possible, because previously with DLSS 3 and FSR 3 I would never want to use ultra performance mode on a 4K monitor. That just looked horrible. But this actually is usable. It is very much possible to enjoy the game like this. And yes, we don't have quite that 60 FPS. Oh, look at that. In some scenes we are getting 60 FPS. But let's face it, even 50 plus FPS with good graphics quality on a 4K monitor using a $350 graphics card, that is amazing. Good value, I would say. Let's try a little fight. There we go. 50 plus FPS. Let me switch to my sniper rifle. Boom, that's a headshot right there. So this is usable. I can still enjoy the game. Of course, it's not as amazing as something like 60 plus FPS consistently, or even like 90 plus FPS, but damn, the fact that we can actually use this GPU to play games on a 4K monitor, and this is a very GPU heavy game, notoriously GPU heavy. If I had to pick a gaming experience, I would take this one over 1080p any day. Easy. And let's see what happens if we enable frame generation on top of this. AMD's frame generation doesn't offer the best visual quality or the best frame pacing compared to NVIDIA's latest offering, but it still works. Although I don't like how the controls feel. Yeah, there's definitely quite a bit of latency in those controls, and I can feel it. It is not very pleasant. On an NVIDIA graphics card, I was frame generating from like 50 plus FPS, and it wasn't an issue at all. That felt good. But with the AMD frame generation, that's just not the case. I don't quite like how this feels. It is usable, but it's not quite as enjoyable as NVIDIA's offering. As a result, I think I'd rather play this game without frame generation enabled. Yeah, that actually felt better. Let me just confirm that real quick. I'll disable frame gen. Wow, okay, yes, indeed. Even though we are now getting like 50 plus FPS, this feels more responsive. Way more responsive. Yeah, this is good. Let's just get rid of this big guy. He's gonna give us some nice loot, hopefully. Or maybe not. Dude, where's the loot? No loot. This is it. This is the way I'd play this game on this graphics card on a 4K monitor. Of course, we can actually reduce the graphics settings even further to get more FPS, but yeah, the game is not gonna look that good. Let's try it anyway. Medium graphics quality preset, FSR4 Ultra Performance. Notice how we're still using above 8 GB of memory, even though we lowered the graphics settings almost to the minimum. That is the power of having more than 8 GB of memory. The medium graphics quality still looks usable, but it's just not as enjoyable visually. However, it does offer us a nice FPS boost compared to the high graphics quality preset, which allows us to have a consistent 60 plus FPS experience. And that does feel good. The mouse feels more responsive. Let's just try this sniper rifle. Boom. Can I land a headshot? Yes, there we go, a headshot. Oh, 70 plus FPS in some scenes. And what I am noticing is that the AMD graphics card is actually working more stable than an NVIDIA graphics card in this game. I don't know what's up with that, but damn. Take a look at that frame rate graph. It is much smoother. There are still some performance issues there, a stutter here and there, but there's definitely fewer stutters compared to an NVIDIA graphics card. And I tested a lot of them. 5080, 5090, 5070. Yeah, they were all stuttery as heck. So something is definitely happening here in terms of performance, and I hope it gets fixed either in drivers or in a future game update. That would be great, because that performance, yeah, it's not good. We have to use frame generation on an NVIDIA graphics card to make sure that the frame rate stays at least somewhat smooth. But now that we have more frames, more real frames, what about fake frames? Let's enable frame generation once more and see how that feels. The mouse movement still feels a little bit weird, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was previously. So I think that this is already a usable experience. So let me try and do some headshots over here. Where is everybody? Yeah, there we go. There we go. Oh, reload. Can I land that shot? Oh my god. No, I can't. Oh, I can, yes. Yeah, this feels better, but I think I actually prefer the experience without the frame generation that we had just before this. It was something like 60 to 70 plus FPS. That felt great. This feels a little bit weird. Obviously because we're getting more latency, more delay in the mouse movement response. Oh, look at how many there are. Let's use this weapon to clear them real quick. Yeah, get some. Give me your loot. Nah, I don't like this frame generation experience. I really hope that AMD updates their frame generation model soon, because I know they're working on an updated one that relies on machine learning algorithms to, interpolate the frames. It will be great if it will be as good or anywhere close to as good as NVIDIA's current frame generation. We switched to 1080p resolution, maximum graphics quality preset using full resolution. And the minimum requirements do not lie. You need at least 10 gigabytes of memory to play this game even at 1080p if you are maxing it out. Although, really, on an AMD graphics card, we need 11 gigabytes. So a 12 gigabyte graphics card would be perfect. Thankfully, we have 16 gigabytes on this thing, so it's not an issue. But the frame rate is less than ideal. We are at 40-ish FPS, and this does not feel good. And in terms of visual quality, the contrast is pretty stark compared to what we had at 4K resolution. As I said previously, I very much prefer playing this game on a 4K screen using FSR 4 Ultra Performance, which is basically 720p upscaled to 4K. It looks incredibly, massively more pleasant than native 1080p. And yes, this is still a 4K display, because unfortunately, I just don't own any 1080p displays. 1080p resolution is displayed perfectly on a 4K screen, because we're getting 4K pixels to display one 1080p pixel, which makes a perfect square. It's not like, trying to view 1440p on a 4K display. That doesn't work. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look right. But the size does make a difference, because this is a 32-inch screen, which means that pixel density is quite low. Anywho, we need to increase the FPS, because in certain scenes we are at 30 plus. Take a look at this. Yeah, and it's not even the most intense fight scene, alright? So we need to make some adjustments. Let's lower that graphics quality to very high to check out how that goes. The performance is still pretty meh, and this is not the kind of thing that we can fix with frame generation. It will make it worse, actually. As we discussed previously, AMD's frame generation just doesn't feel good, even if you have something like 60 plus FPS. At least in this game, that is the case. This is playable, but it's not enjoyable. The mouse just doesn't feel responsive enough at 40 plus FPS. Nah, this is not a pleasant experience. Especially considering that we are at 1080p resolution. So yeah, no matter what Gearbox CEO is saying, I don't think this experience is good enough. It's just not. I mean, come on. We're on a graphics card that is supposed to play any 1080p native game smooth as butter, but we're not getting that, even with the lowered graphics settings. And I don't care what he says, FSR 4 quality mode at 1080p lowers the details quality way too much. Especially if you're playing on a 27-inch display. I know for a fact, I used that, it doesn't look good enough. I mean, it's bad enough to play at 1080p native on a 27-inch monitor, let alone enabling any sort of resolution upscaling. It's not absolutely horrible, but it's not something you expect doing on this class of graphics card. No way. But I guess we'll still have to check out how the FSR 4 quality mode performs when paired with the very high graphics quality preset. Because if you want to preserve this high level of graphics and get 60 plus FPS, then apparently that's what you have to use. Indeed, that is the case. Because now we're getting 69 FPS, which is very nice. And the mouse is way more responsive. This actually feels like a good experience. Hold on a second. You see, the visuals are so bad that I couldn't actually track that enemy. I completely missed him just then. Wow, okay. Yeah. The PPI on this settings is just absolutely horrific. But the performance is fine. Take a look at this. Seriously. 60 plus FPS consistently. Nice. And note the memory usage. Nearly 10 gigabytes. So yeah. In this game, you better not have the 8 gigabyte graphics card. You're gonna have a bad time. I'm only saying this because there are 8 gigabyte versions of the 9060 XT. I do not recommend them. The 16 gigabyte model is the only one that I can wholeheartedly recommend without any remorse. Okay, let's set the resolution back to full resolution and lower the graphics quality to high. Yay! We finally have a 60 plus FPS experience at native 1080p. Although, hold on a second. Hang on a moment. What is that I see there? Is that 57, 55 FPS that I see? No, 53? What? And let's actually engage in combat and see what happens then. Oh, 52, 51. So the more stuff that's going on the screen, the FPS is actually dropping more and more. Yeah. This is not good. We're still not at 60 plus FPS at native resolution. Come on, what the hell? Gearbox, are you serious? This isn't good. But once again, if you enable resolution upscaling, quality mode, it's gonna be fine. Of course, I'm talking about the FPS that is fine, not the image quality, because we already discussed that enough times, I think. But take a look at this. 70 plus FPS. This actually, in terms of image fluidity, this feels good. Get some of this. And let's see. We're gonna drop to 60-ish. No, it looks like it's a consistent 70 plus FPS. And even if some major FPS dip happens, we're still gonna stay at above 60. Let's try frame generation on top of this. Oh, above 120, 140, 150, 160 even. And now the mouse, it feels responsive enough, I guess, but it still feels a little bit weird. I think what is lacking is one of those low latency technologies. AMD's equivalent is called anti-lag, and let's see, is it even in the game? Because I know that NVIDIA's Reflex is in the game and it's right there, but I don't see AMD's anti-lag. I think that is what is missing, and that is what's making the frame generation feel so bad. Yeah. Weird. Because I actually prefer playing this without frame generation enabled. Even though this visually feels smoother, more fluid, when I try, just using the mouse, it just doesn't feel right. Feels weird. Feels like there's latency. Like the image on the screen just doesn't match up with what my hand is doing with the mouse. I hope that makes sense. Right, we've got to keep going. We've got to find out what kind of graphics preset do we have to use to actually get 60 plus FPS at native, yes, native 1080p, no frame generation on the 9060 XT. Medium graphics quality. Let's go. No way. Are we finally seeing 60 plus FPS consistently at native 1080p? Looks like it. So, it takes setting the graphics to medium to actually get to this kind of experience. Oh my god. What a time to be alive. Yeah. 60 plus, pretty consistently. I guess this is it. We can move on to the next resolution. Actually, hold on. Let's test the FSR4 quality mode real quick as well, just to see what it's like on the medium graphics quality preset. Look at that, 100 plus FPS. And seriously, what is up? On AMD graphics cards, the game is not as stuttery as on any NVIDIA GPU I've tested so far. Yeah. There are still some spikes in the frame rate here and there, but it's nowhere near as bad. This is actually a smooth enough experience. Lastly, let's take a look at 1440p gaming experience. This is an actual 27-inch 1440p display, 360Hz QD OLED by MSI, very nice indeed. So I'm hoping that we will be able to have a good time at this resolution on this monitor. But we'll see. We'll definitely need some resolution upscaling to take advantage of higher frame rates and maybe even frame generation, but we'll see how that goes. Let's start at maximum graphics settings using full resolution. This doesn't look very promising. Below 30 FPS already. But it works. At least it works. Cinematic experience. Yeah, let's actually lower the settings because no amount of resolution upscaling can fix 20 plus FPS in this game. Let's lower the graphics to very high and remain at full resolution. Oh, it's still around 30 FPS. Not quite enough FPS, because yeah, this is still a cinematic experience, not good enough for a first-person shooter game. But we can actually use resolution upscaling to at least try and get something good out of this graphics setting. Let's try the FSR4 quality mode and see how that goes. This is actually not too bad already. 40 plus FPS, really close to 50. But it's not gonna be good enough for, you know, those fight scenes. It's not gonna be fluid enough. So I think we should try FSR4 balanced mode. On this screen, FSR4 balanced mode looks acceptable, I would say. FSR4 quality mode looks very close to native resolution. Nice quality, but balanced. It's usable, I would say. The picture looks nice. Definitely nicer than 1080p. And the FPS is still at around 50, dropping into high 40s. So this is not ideal, but it's already a playable experience. You could actually start enjoying this game at this level of performance. I think we need to adjust the graphics settings a little bit more. Let's do high graphics quality preset, turn off that motion blur every time, turn it off. We don't want any of that blurriness on our screen. And let's go back to native resolution. And yes, I am reloading the game every time I change settings. Yeah, even the high settings don't produce 60 plus FPS at native 1440p. But that is to be expected because we've seen what happened at 1080p resolution, so I have no hopes for 1440p, of course, but with the help of resolution upscaling, we might actually find us a pretty nice experience. Let's do FSR4 quality. Yes, take a look at that, 60-ish FPS. Oh, it's lingering on 59, but damn. This is a good image quality, high details on the screen. This is looking good. And the graphics still look nice because we're using high settings. This is the minimum I would use to actually enjoy the game. Although, yeah, the FPS is still quite low, 56 sometimes. I don't like that very much. I think it is playable, but I think for the best experience, we still need to tweak some settings. So let's lower the resolution upscaling quality to balanced. Here we go. Will we drop below 60 using this graphics quality? Not so far, but we might. Let's see. I want more enemies shooting at me, using their skills. Oh, 59 FPS, but we're staying really close to 60 most of the time. I think this is it. This is the experience that we want. 60 plus, nice and fluid. I think this is good enough. If I were playing this game on a 1440p display using this graphics card, then I think that this is the set of settings that I would use personally. Of course, it would have been nice to have NVIDIA's frame generation on top of this for like the smoothest experience, but yeah, unfortunately, in this game, AMD's frame generation doesn't feel as good. But just for the sake of it, I'll still show you what it's like in terms of FPS. Let's enable frame gen. I always make this disclaimer, frame generation is a frame smoothing feature, not performance increasing feature. Just keep that in mind. And yeah, above 100 FPS, it's pretty fluid experience, but once again, I just don't like how my mouse feels. It doesn't feel quite right. I don't know, maybe after a while I would get used to it, but I don't really want to, because if we can get a better experience using other settings, then why bother with the frame generation? I don't think it's worth it, but it's definitely worth trying. Maybe you will feel fine. I'm just a bit sensitive to those kind of things sometimes. My perceptions are not super sharp, but pretty sharp, I would say. Right, let's try one more thing. Medium graphics quality preset, native resolution, no frame generation. As expected, we're not getting 60 FPS at native, so let's not mess around and enable resolution upscaling right away, FSR 4 quality mode. Yeah, this is the kind of FPS that I want to see in this game. Take a look at this. 70 plus, nice and fluid, makes it quite easy to actually track enemies with the mouse. Feels good. Hold on a second, what am I doing? Where's this enemy? Is that you? Who has this weird aura? Yeah. Let's see what you got for us. A few goodies, but nothing special. Right. The experience is nice and fluid, but yeah, it's a medium graphics quality preset. It doesn't look as horrendous as low, but after high, I don't think this game looks good on anything below the high graphics quality preset. But if you value FPS more and image clarity more, then at least you have an option. The 9060 XT has enough horsepower to actually deliver a pretty good experience in terms of frame rate at this setting. Let's try FSR 4 balanced mode. This is a slightly more fluid experience, close to 80, but it's not that much more different in terms of frame rate compared to the quality mode. It's not like a massive difference. If we had something like 90 plus FPS, then I would say, okay, this performance might be worth, you know, suffering through lower image quality, but yeah, in this particular case, I don't think it is worth it. But it's an option that you can use if you need to. In conclusion, you can have a good time using the RX 9060 XT in Borderlands 4. And interestingly enough, we had the best experiences at 1440p as well as at 4K. And 1080p was the most horrible experience, in my opinion. Yeah. Strange how that works in 2025. Of course, a lot of blame is on the game itself, because it is just way too GPU demanding for how it looks. I would understand this kind of performance if it had path tracing enabled, or at least hardware ray tracing, but it turns out that this game uses software-based lumen ray tracing, which is way less demanding than hardware ray tracing. Let me know in the comments, what GPU should I test next? Should I keep testing Borderlands 4? Do you want to see more of it? If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to reward my work with a like. It helps out tremendously, and I really much appreciate it. Furthermore, if you're interested in any of the products featured in this video, then you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Subscribe for more videos like this if you haven't already. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.